My name is Varro, and I am 65 years old. At this age, you believe life has already taught you every lesson it possibly can. You think you've experienced enough heartbreak, enough joy, enough disappointment that nothing can truly shake you anymore. But sometimes, the deepest wounds come from the people you once trusted the most. And sometimes, life has a strange way of delivering justice faster than anyone expects. This is the story of the night my daughter-in-law humiliated me at my own dinner table, and how the very next day, everything changed for her. 3 years ago, I buried the love of my life. My wife, Alina, and I had spent 42 beautiful years together. We built our home brick by brick, memory by memory. The house wasn't just wood and walls. It held birthdays, laughter, arguments, Christmas mornings, and the sound of our son Daniel running through the hallway as a child. When Alina died, the house became painfully quiet. Silence is a strange thing. At first, you think you'll get used to it, but some nights it feels so loud it almost hurts. Still, I kept going. I woke up every morning, watered Alina's garden, made my coffee, and told myself life had to move forward. Daniel visited sometimes with his wife, Claire. Daniel had always been a kind boy, but somewhere along the way, life made him quieter, softer in the wrong moments. Claire, on the other hand, had a personality that filled every room. Confident, sharp, opinionated. Sometimes too sharp. From the day she entered our family, I felt something cold behind her smiles. I tried to ignore it. After all, she was my son's wife, and I wanted peace in the family. So I stayed polite. Even when she barely looked at me. Even when she made comments about how old houses are useless. Even when she joked that people my age should be living in retirement communities. I always smiled and changed the subject. But that night, things went too far. It was a Sunday evening. The sky outside was turning orange as the sun slowly dipped behind the trees. I had spent most of the afternoon cooking. Alina used to say that food tasted better when it was made for people you loved. So I prepared Daniel's favorite roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. I even polished the old dining table. 3 plates sat neatly in place. One chair across from me remained empty, the chair where Alina used to sit. Sometimes I still catch myself glancing at it, expecting her to walk in with that warm smile. At exactly 7:05 p.m. the doorbell rang. Daniel stepped inside first. "Hey, Dad," he said, giving me a quick hug. Claire followed behind him, her heels clicking on the floor. "Hi," she said casually. I smiled warmly. "Dinner's ready." We sat down. For the first 15 minutes, the evening seemed normal. Daniel talked about his job. Claire scrolled through her phone between bites of food. I tried to keep the conversation light. But then Daniel suddenly said something that changed everything. "Dad, Claire and I have been thinking about something." I looked up. "Oh." He cleared his throat. "Maybe it's time you sold this house." My fork froze in midair. "Sell it?" Claire leaned back in her chair. "It's way too big for one person," she said bluntly. "You don't need all this space." I felt a quiet ache in my chest. "This house has been my home for 40 years, I replied calmly. Daniel shrugged. "You could move into a nice apartment, something smaller." I understood what they were really suggesting. The house was worth a lot of money. And if I sold it, that money would eventually make its way to them. "I'm comfortable here," I said gently. Claire rolled her eyes. "You're being stubborn." Daniel looked nervous but said nothing. I placed my fork down slowly. I worked my whole life for this home. Claire suddenly slammed her fork on the table. "Oh, please." The sound echoed across the room. Daniel whispered nervously, "Claire." But she ignored him. She leaned forward, her voice dripping with irritation. "You're just sitting on money while we're drowning in bills." I stayed calm. "I'm sorry you're struggling," I said quietly, "but that doesn't mean I should leave my home." Her face hardened. Then she said the words that would change everything. She pointed her finger at me and shouted, "Shut up, widower." The room went completely silent. The word hung in the air like poison. Widower. Not Varro. Not Dad. Just a lonely old man whose wife was gone. My chest tightened. Daniel's eyes widened. "Claire, what's wrong with you?" he shouted. But she crossed her arms. Someone had to say it. I slowly placed my napkin beside my plate. My hands trembled slightly, but I kept my voice calm. "I think dinner is over." Daniel stood up quickly. "Dad, wait." But I gently raised my hand. "No." Claire grabbed her purse. "Whatever," she muttered. I walked them to the door in silence. Daniel looked ashamed. Claire looked annoyed. Neither of them apologized. When the door closed, the house became quiet again. Painfully quiet. I returned to the dining table. The food sat untouched. The empty chair across from me felt heavier than ever. I looked at Alina's photograph hanging on the wall. My voice cracked. She called me a widower like it was something shameful. For a moment, tears blurred my vision. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of anger, I felt clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The sunlight filtered gently through the curtains. For the first time in months, my mind felt completely clear. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. "Good morning, Varro," he said. "Good morning," I replied. "I'd like to make changes to my will." There was a short pause. "Of course, what kind of changes?" I looked around my home. Every corner held memories of Alina. I want to change everything. That afternoon, I sat inside the lawyer's office signing new documents. For years, my will had been simple. Everything, the house, the savings, the investments, would go to Daniel. But respect matters. And love cannot grow where there is cruelty. So I made a new decision. I left the house and most of my savings to a children's charity and orphanage. Children who had lost their families. Children who knew the meaning of loneliness. Daniel would still receive a small amount, but nothing compared to what he once stood to inherit. When I signed the final page, a strange peace settled in my heart. That evening my phone rang. It was Daniel. "Dad, Claire just heard about the will." I leaned back in my chair. "Oh, she's furious." I could hear her yelling in the background. "Dad, you can't do this." I sighed softly. "Why not? That was supposed to be our inheritance." "No," I said calmly, "it was my life's work." Silence. Then I said quietly, "Yesterday your wife called me a widower like it was an insult." Daniel said nothing. "But being a widower means I loved someone deeply," I continued. I looked at Alina's photo. And I would rather honor that love than reward disrespect. Daniel's voice trembled. "Dad, Claire didn't mean it." "Words reveal the heart," I replied. Then I said one final thing. "The children at that orphanage will appreciate what your wife never did." 2 days later, Daniel came alone. He looked tired and ashamed. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "I should have defended you." I studied his face. He truly meant it. "Your wife crossed the line," I said gently. He nodded slowly. "Will you ever forgive her?" I smiled softly. "Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." He looked down. "Claire wants the will changed back." I chuckled quietly. That won't happen. Then I placed a hand on his shoulder. But you're still my son. His eyes filled with tears. For the first time in years, we hugged like we used to when he was a child. That night, I sat alone on my porch under the stars. The wind rustled softly through the trees. And for the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. Alina's love still lived in every wall. And someday, children who had no family would find comfort because of what we built together. I looked up at the sky and whispered softly, "I hope you're proud of me, Alina." The wind moved gently through the garden she once loved. And somehow, I felt like she heard me. Moral of the story: respect and kindness are more valuable than money or inheritance. Those who value people only for their wealth may one day lose everything, while those who give with love leave a legacy that lasts forever.